I've wanted my own 6.5 Sherman short for a long time. I hunted in South Africa with Peter Milan's. I even built Peter Milan a 6.5 Sherman short when he visited here. Now I'm gonna build one for myself, and that's what we're gonna cover in depth in this video. Hey guys, Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. We are just recently coming off a 7 Sherman short build. I was incredibly impressed with that build. It's going to be a great hunting rifle, maximum 7mm performance out of a short action. Now I'm going to follow that up with my very own 6.5 Sherman short build. This is going to be similar, but this is going to allow us to push the 6.5 caliber to maximum performance out of a short action as well. So just to recap a little bit, I went hunting with Peter Milan in South Africa. We had an absolutely amazing time. I personally had 5 shots, 5 kills. It was absolutely amazing, and 6.5 Sherman short did the job every time. With 1 shot, ethical shots, no suffering. It was really, really an impressive performance portfolio. And what was really impressed me with it was the manageability of the rifle. I was hunting with a braked suppressor that Pete had, one of his APW braked suppressors. And what was really amazing about this cartridge was I was able to pull the trigger, watch the trace, spot the hit right on the animal, and watch the animal fall, right? And that's what is really great about the 6.5. You know, the 7 Sherman short is going to give me more stopping power. I'll be more likely to grab that for larger game animals or maybe really long range shots. But the 6.5 Sherman short, I think, is becoming my favorite kind of all-rounder medium to big game hunting cartridge. Okay, so that's a little bit of background. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 6.5 Sherman short cartridge. But before we do that, let's talk about what we have here on the table. So the build is going to kind of be centered around the 1934 Armory BE3. This is a really cool action. You can see they do a phenomenal job with their presentation and packaging. This is really hard foam, and everything arrives in one piece and in really good shape, of course. Really slick. This has got PVD coating, physical vapor deposition. It's got a fluted bolt, one-piece bolt, toolless fire control group, disassembly. It's got a pinned 20 MOA lightweight rail on it. It's got a 0.3-inch thick pinned recoil lug. Really, really stout hardware. It's also skeletonized. It's got a Remington 700 footprint, Remington 700 trigger compatibility. It's got a side stop bolt release, so an external bolt release. Really, really nice three lug construction. This is going to be really interesting to put together and to shoot. Very, very slick. I mean, you should feel this. I wish you could through your screen, but really good quality on that, and I think it's going to be a really outstanding performer. Comes in at a good price point. I've also got the 1934 Armory 3-lug action wrench. So this is going to go right through the raceways, and that's going to allow us to really easily tighten down the action onto the barrel when we're done with the chambering. So speaking of the barrel, this is a custom Bartline 6.5 blank that I had turned to my own specifications. My motivation was I wanted a steel barrel, I wanted to do it without fluting, I wanted it to be lightweight and also accommodate a suppressor. So since it's going to accommodate a suppressor and I wanted to keep this compact, I chose a 22-inch finished length. But what's special about this barrel blank is we've got this nice sort of sporter contour going here, and then it flares out to 0.8 inches here at the muzzle so that I can thread it, kind of like what we do. We have a video for Guy Miner's 30-06 rifle. We did a sporter threading job, threading it back and putting a taper nut in place so that we could enlarge the shoulder to accommodate a brake or a suppressor without problems and with great alignment and squareness, that sort of thing. This has that same geometry kind of built into the barrel blank. So I'm super curious how this is going to machine and how it's going to shoot. We're using the Foundation Gideon stock. This is a very high-tech piece of equipment. It's got micarta, it's got open closed cell foam, it's got Kevlar, and carbon. It's kind of a little bit of all of the materials that you're going to need to maximize weight savings, maximize torsional rigidity, stiffness, and it's got the micarta in the inlet area where the action seats down into the stock, right? And Foundation is really known for the exceptional job that they do with their inletting geometry. Bedding is not required. You get a really precision fit between the action and the stock. And I love the sort of grippy textured paint that Foundation puts on this. We've got two rails, one at the back for a tripod, one at the front for a bipod. This is a super awesome setup. You're going to want to check out the lightweight 22 Creedmoor build that we did with this one. We've got Hawkins Precision. This is the Hunter DBM. It's going to work with this AICS magazine. We could also look at using one of the Hunter magazines from Hawkins Precision. Really super high quality stuff. Always works well with Foundation. We've got a Bix'n Andy TacSport X trigger. I absolutely love their ball triggers. We've got a complete story that goes super in depth on covering most of the triggers, right? So this is kind of the core kit for the rifle itself. In terms of tooling, I've got a Manson 6.5 SS finisher reamer. It looks a lot like the Manson 7SS finisher reamer that we used on the 7SS build. You know, that really the difference is in the neck area, and it's going to use the same gauges that are marked 6.5 SS. The shoulder is the same base to shoulder. Again, the neck area is where it's different, so those interchange, which is super nice. We've got brass that is head stamped 6.5 Sherman short. This is from Sherman themselves, and we've got 100 pieces there, which is going to be plenty to get this rifle broken in and figured out. Okay, so a little bit more about the 6.5 Sherman short. This cartridge is really optimized for usable case capacity for a 6.5 in a short action, right? And they accomplish that by pushing the shoulder back a little bit. It's got a 40-degree shoulder angle, and it has minimal body taper, right? So the bullet is out in front, and all of the powder is in the back, and all of the geometry is fully optimized to make most use of whatever powder charge you can cram in there. If you have cartridges that don't have this geometry, you're going to end up shoving bullets a bit deeper in if you want those longer, higher BC bullets, and you're not going to get the advertised case capacity. So with the 6.5 Sherman short, velocities in the 3,000 to 3,300 foot per second range are pretty typical. And as I demonstrated in Africa, and as Pete has demonstrated multiple times on this channel, this cartridge is absolutely lethal. Okay, so another thing that is going to be a part of this build is the Telson Target Master 5 to 25 by 56 scope. We just used this same scope on our 25 Creedmoor build. It's a little bit heavier. It's a tactical scope, but that's going to really allow us to get the most precise shooting experience that we're going to need to evaluate the performance potential of this cartridge with this particular rifle combination. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to the machine shop. I have a few Precision Matthews lathes, as you guys know. I'm going to pick the lathe. This is a little bit shorter barrel. I might use the 1340 GT or the TL1660, something like that, because those can accommodate shorter barrels a little bit better. The way that I have them set up, we're going to get the barrel chambered. I think I'm going to do black Cerakote on this. After that, I'm going to come back and tell you how the build went. We'll get the scope mounted, go shooting. This is going to be awesome. So here it is. The rifle is complete. Everything turned out great. I did some black Cerakote, which I'll get to in a moment. Barrel contour looks great. And as you can see, I decided on the Precision Matthews PM 1340 GT for a very specific reason. We had an interesting barrel situation here. We've only got 22 inches finished length. We've also got this reverse contour at the end. And with this lathe, the way I set up the outboard spider, there's only 19 inches from the chuck jaws, the front face, to the spider screws on the outboard side. So that gave me complete flexibility with regard to gripping the barrel and orienting it when it came to dialing in the barrel. And of course, I've got a full video on the 1340 GT, and then I have another video on equipping the 1340 GT specifically for barrel chambering. This worked absolutely awesome. Just to give a quick run through of the process, I did my pre-planning. So I'm looking at the tenon print from 1934 Armory, and I'm looking at the reamer print that I had for 6.5 Sherman short. It's not a SAMI spec'd cartridge, so we have to, just do a little bit of work to get the info for that. Not a big problem. And that allowed me to plan my different moves, dimensions, and processes for the chambering process. The barrel was indicated in the lathe to within a 0.5 thousandth. It was pre-drilled, and then the indicator was placed right in where the throat area is, at about an inch further in. And that allows me to do a 2-point dial to get everything within about 1/10,000th of an inch of perfect concentricity. And I can tilt the barrel, I can do radial adjustments here with the 4-jaw chuck jaws, and that actually went pretty smooth. After the barrel was indicated to 1/10,000th of an inch, I went in with a single point boring bar and bored that pre-drilled area true. I needed to bore it to about 522 thousandths of an inch, and I only had a 1/2 inch drill bit that was close to that. So I took a few more boring passes to get it to that dimension so that we're not taking off too much material with the reamer. This is a pretty critical part of the process when you're doing manual chambering without pressure flush, like I did in this particular case. The tenon was turned down. This is 1.1/16 by 16, so it's very similar to a Remington 700. Went ahead and threaded that, fit the action on the threads, perfection there, and then proceeded to do the actual chamber cut itself. And here I'm starting at about 1/2 inch, and then I'm going 0.4 more than that, maybe 0.3 more, and then 0.2 more. As we get to the point in the process where we start to take off shoulder material, the amount of chips goes up exponentially, so I back off a little bit. When I got within about 30 thousandths of being done with the chamber cut, I slipped my ring over and used a depth gauge, depth micrometer, and the go gauge to figure out where I needed to be to land a perfect headspace. Cut the chamber to that depth, screwed on the action, checked with the go and no-go gauges, and hit perfect headspace first time around in one try with this. So that was awesome. Then I chamfered the entrance to the chamber, smoothed out that edge a little bit, took the barrel out of the lathe, flipped it around, and I was basically gripped right close to the reverse taper right there. And that allowed me to indicate the muzzle end. And we're a little bit less exacting here. We don't have to get to 1/10,000th of an inch, more like a couple tenths either direction is fine. But the more important thing there is to make sure that it's running perfectly straight, because we want to prevent baffle strikes and have good concentricity between the bullet and either the suppressor or a brake, whatever it is we happen to be running. Got the barrel dialed in and proceeded to turn it down to 5/8, threaded at 5/8 24, did a recessed crown on it. Looked absolutely beautiful. This lathe does really great precision work. It doesn't have a brake, a foot pedal brake like the bigger lathes have, but that's pretty easy to get used to. And the interface is very familiar. Probably the biggest difference between this and my other lathes is that it's got the gear shifters that are the older style. But they're actually really pleasant to work with, potentially even slightly more quick. And then we've got shifting actually explicitly between threading and power feeds for turning, right? It's just a slightly different layout of controls. Everything else is pretty much the same. I'm using a tailstock DRO like on the other machines. I've got my DRO mounted here out of the way, and I'm using rigid reamer holders like what I learned from Bruce Tom, and we did a chambering video where he outlined that. This blank is put in place. It is drilled and single point bored in place on the lathe, and that ensures perfect linearity and concentricity between the reamer holding bore and the spindle as it turns. And that has worked really well, and you can feel and hear the difference. Results in less chatter, better surface finish in my experience, and is very systematic and process oriented with regard to the tailstock DRO I'm not taking the reamer out, so that's kind of nice. Okay, so at this point, the barrel work is done. And I took it down to the shop where we have our bigger Cerakote shop. That's where we've got our Built American equipment, the BAE 0300 oven, which is their new one, and we have the DSBE 1500 spray booth. Mixed up some black Cerakote, put the barrel in the sandblaster, blasted it with 100 grit aluminum oxide. I put on 2 coats this time and let it flash for 15 minutes, put it in the oven for 2 hours at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Absolutely came out perfect. The next morning I got to the shop and proceeded to fixture the barrel in the barrel vise, spun on the action, tightened it down to 70 foot-pounds, and then proceeded to check with the go and no-go gauges, respectively. Those are the Manson gauges that we're using for this project. Landed perfectly. Again, absolutely love it. The action fit perfectly in this Gideon stock from Foundation. We're using the Hawkins Hunter DBM. Right here we have a steel AICS magazine that is for 300 WSM, which is going to work for the short action magnums. And so everything came together real nice. Proceeded to use some Area 419 rings to get this Telson Target Master. This is the 5 to 25 by 56. Really super nice scope. Get that all leveled, torqued down to perfection, and that means, basically with our muzzle device, which I chose the Area 419 Maverick for, we could easily swap that out for the Hellfire Titanium. We might use both when it comes to our sight-in and limited load development that we're going to do in this particular story. And that is what I'm going to do next. Well, the verdict is in. This rifle is awesome and it shoots awesome. A couple things that I didn't mention previously. What about the weight of the build, right? So what I did was I took the suppressor, I exchanged it for the Hellfire Titanium, and then I took the scope off. This is a heavier tactical scope, and so I thought let's take a look basically at the rifle with the magazine. That came in at 8.07 pounds, and then without the steel AICS magazine, it was 7.75 pounds. I think that is the perfect lighter end weight for a Magnum, period. I'm not interested in ultra lightweight Magnums myself. I don't find them to be particularly pleasurable to shoot or controllable, and both are important when you want the confidence to take the animal, you want to see your shot, and you want to see the animal fall. Braked suppressor, if we took Maverick apart and put one of the braked configs together, would be even better. It would basically mock up what I had in South Africa with the APW suppressor setup that I used from Peter Milan. Also, for the Target Master, there were a couple things that I didn't show in the last video. One of them is this revolution counter. So the windage and elevation are both locking, which is really nice, especially for a tactical scope I'm using here as a hunting setup. I know I'm not going to bump it, right? But if we go all the way around a revolution, we're going to see this little pin pop up. And then if we go another revolution, we're going to see it pop up just a little bit more. So there's a line. It elevates to the line on the first revolution, and then it elevates above the line beyond that. So that's a nice detail, and also it's really easy to set the zero stop. What you'll find is when you take the cap off, there's a small ring inside, a splined ring, and you want to rotate that all the way, the direction that it shows you. There's a little arrow and instructions under the cap, and then put it back in place with zero lining up with the indicator. That's all there is to it. Setting the windage is also very easy. Just take the screw out, pop it off a little bit, rotate it to zero, and put it back, put the screw back in. So really liking this scope. It worked really well for shooting groups. I'll have to say, this experience at 100 yards was great. The 100 yards experience getting it sighted in. This is the sight in target right here. So my first shot landed up here. It was 4 inches from center, and that's not bad just considering I was looking down the bore and kind of making sure that the bore sight line and what I saw through the scope agreed. Then shots 2, 3, and 4 went into 0.517 inches. Not bad. And just for reference, we're using the brass here that's head stamped 6.5 Sherman short, which is available at Sherman Wildcats. And We've also got the 156 Berger Elite Hunter, which is the bullet that I used in South Africa. And this was 56 grains of H1000. This is from the Sherman Wildcats load data. So they had 58 listed as their load, and so I started at 56. Then I did 57 grains, took a 5-shot group. Let me show you that. That came in at 0.537 inches. So for a lighter weight Magnum with a thin profile barrel, I think that's absolutely awesome. I shot a couple more groups with the 156 at 58. I had 0.758, and then I went back to the 56 grain load, and that was 0.971. I was getting some windage, so on subsequent groups, I did a little bit tighter grab on the ears of the rear bag, and that definitely helped to stabilize things. So I think with a little bit more load development, the 156 Elite Hunter load would be absolutely awesome. But I also wanted to see what I could do with Berger's 140 grain hybrid, which is kind of our standard test 6.5 bullet. If we're building a custom rifle, if we want to evaluate a factory rifle, these 140s have shot great in our hand loads and with Berger's factory ammunition. So I loaded up 57.5 grains of H1000, which was directly from the Sherman Wildcats data, and proceeded to shoot this group. I almost couldn't believe my eyes. And using the long shot camera system helped validate right away. This is a great group. I think this rifle with this barrel really loves the 140 grain bullets. The 5 shots went into 0.347 inches. So with this, we had a velocity of 2,835 feet per second average with a standard deviation of 8.5. This would be a great hunting load. If you want to use a match bullet in a hunting environment, with which I think people are becoming more and more familiar with. With the 156, our velocity was 2784, 2766 average for the 5-shot group with an SD of 17.1. 57 was 2812 with a 21.1 SD, and 58 was 2854 with an 8.2 SD. So definitely some promising numbers, and keep in mind this is coming out of a 22-inch barrel. If you look at the Sherman Wildcats data, they have barrels ranging from 20 inches all the way up to, I think, 26 inches in that 6.5 Sherman short section. Okay, so this is great on the heels of our 7 Sherman short build. This was another build that we did with a foundation stock. This is Ezekiel over here, and we've got Gideon. Ezekiel has the cheek riser. It has the forward bridge on this particular configuration and slightly different ergonomics. Love both stocks. They have, like I said earlier in this video, the micarta, the Kevlar, open cell foam, and carbon, and a rubber butt pad. These stocks, they feel great. and they have that awesome inletting that Foundation is known for with the micarta. And I love the way they look as well. So at the end of the day, both rifles are hammers. This rifle was sub-half MOA for a 5-shot group, and here we're shooting in the 3s with the very first 5-shot group that we shot with the Berger 140s. Now, what would be interesting would be to try additional bullets. If you'd like me to try a specific bullet with the 6.5 Sherman short, just let me know, and as we move forward with additional content, we can evaluate that. Same being said for the 7 Sherman short. I'm just here on the heels of big game hunting season, as I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about, and it's really exciting to have 2 awesome rifles to choose from that, funny enough, use the same 300 WSM magazine. So totally loving the Shermans. Every one of them impressed me, and there's basically a Sherman Wildcat cartridge for every occasion. So drop a comment, let me know what you think of the build, and if you're shooting a 6.5 SS or a 7 SS, what you think of it, what you're using it for, what kind of performance you're getting. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward for more Sherman Wildcats content in the upcoming months and years. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching Ultimate Reloader on TV and want to take advantage of free resources, exclusives, and hot deals, just hold your camera phone up to the QR code, tap on the link, fill out the information, boom, you're getting Ultimate Reloader emails. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. Thanks again for watching.